And here we are. Welcome back to the Redshirt Sophomore. We never sit out. We are here. It is week one Saturday. It's just a couple days away. All right. We're here to preview some games. We're here to talk best bets. We are here to talk upset alert. That's what we're going to do. All right. We are so back. Enough preview talk. Enough this, enough that. All right. No more off season. We are here. We had week zero games last week. We are rolling into an epic slate of football this weekend. We get Thursday games, Friday games, Saturday, Sunday, and a Monday game. Oh boy. So we got 8 games specifically that we're going to preview today, and then we'll get into our best bets and upset alert. But CD, I mean, come on. Come on. We're here, man.
Yeah, it's so exciting. I mean, I would argue this is a top 3 weekend of the year. You got Labor Day coming up, so obviously if you get work off, that's fantastic. It's college football. This slate is honestly fantastic. We've got some big time headliners, obviously 1 versus 2. You've got LSU at Clemson. You've got Notre Dame at Miami. And the best part about those, let me tell you, is they are on campuses. None of this Chick-fil-A fucking Atlanta kickoff bullcrap. Excuse my language there. Even though we've got some neutral sites we're going to preview here. But I love seeing these. Those stadiums are going to be fired up. It's going to be just pure bliss. And the dopamine rush we're going to get Saturday morning. Watching your college football pregame of choice. Watching, the kickoffs, at that noon slate Eastern time. I mean, what a rush. And by the way, too, it starts Thursday and Friday. There's some really solid games. Make sure you're checking out because we'll be previewing a couple of those as well. So from Thursday to Monday, you've got great stuff to do all weekend. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, and if you're in like the Pacific time zone, I mean, games may start as early as 2:30 on your workday on Thursday. So let's get into it, man. We're going to have to start off here. Number 1 versus number 2. Ohio State and Texas. A rematch of the college football playoff semifinals just a season ago, and we get the treat of watching the Longhorns travel up to Columbus to take on what seems like a brand new roster, but still an insanely loaded team. Texas also replacing some pieces on both sides of the football. New quarterbacks on both sides. Boy, this is going to be a premier game this weekend. And to be honest, I kind of know the side that I'm leaning to already, but you got to believe both of these teams are going to be in the playoffs by the end of the year, right?
Yeah, that's the expectation, the standard that's set at these two programs, especially with the talent on these rosters. The interesting thing about this game is it's 1 versus 2. It's the reigning national champion at home, but there's so many questions about each of these rosters. We've done our in-depth breakdown of both of these teams, so check those out if you're interested in learning more about how we feel about their season outlooks. But in terms of this game, the Texas and the Ohio State that we see in November and December, I have a feeling will look a lot different than the one we see out here on Saturday. So it's going to be tough to draw a lot of conclusions. That's why, I'll just come out and say it. I feel more comfortable with Texas here, even going on the road. I like that they're guys in the trenches that they have to replace that are replacing, first round picks and etc. And other guys, they've gotten experience and they've played on big stages. We know what they can do, and the staffs feel pretty good about that. And it's backing up in fall camp. And also, I think too, the quarterback edge here, I think has to go to Texas. Now, at the end of the year, it could be something different. It could be something different on Saturday. Sand could just come out and absolutely ball out. But with Arch Manning, what he's done in big time moments, the experience he got last year when Quinn Ewers was hurt, putting him in against, in 4th down or on other big plays against Texas A&M, that helps, man. That helps. And it's going to be his first, massive road start, which I think will be interesting. But he's also Arch Manning. Like, I don't think the moment's going to be too big for him. He's been in the moment since he was 16 years old, right? So it's going to be an exciting game there. That's what I'm looking at there in terms of my edge. What about you?
I'm with you. I definitely, I'll be on the side of Texas, and I'll take them to win as well. But I just look at Texas and I don't see a single hole. Now you could say the same thing about Ohio State from a talent perspective, but from a proven production standpoint, I'm looking at the side, on Texas, and I'm like, okay, that offensive line is pretty much almost entirely proven, right? And some of these Ohio State players, what's funny about Texas and Ohio State is like they both had, first round offensive linemen go right to the draft, but you also have linemen starting for both these teams in these games that played in place of those first round draft picks. So I do think that I'm a little bit more comfortable with Texas's offensive line than I am with Ohio State's offensive line, given that they do have to replace a little bit more. I think Texas, their linebacking core is nuts. I mean, I have just no questions about this Texas team. And Ohio State, as talented as it is, like you do look at the quarterback spot, and yeah, it's a little bit more of a question than what Texas has at that spot. The offensive line, it's a little bit more of a question than what Texas has at their spot. On the defensive line, I think you could argue either way, but I'm a little bit more comfortable with Texas's defensive line today. Probably will not be saying that by the end of the season, but week one, I'm a little bit more comfortable with what I'm seeing um, on the side of the Longhorns. So I think the real position that Ohio State has a legitimate, true advantage at is the wide receiver position, and even so, Texas has some really good wide receivers. So like, not
And
really
defensive
sweating that too
backs.
much. Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
But Texas has some stellar defensive backs too, man. Like
that's what I'm saying.
I'm
Texas has the really good defensive backs to go up against Ohio State's receivers.
okay, yeah. I thought you were saying like you were given a positional edge. I give some of those defensive backs an edge over some of those Texas defensive backs, but I I just like Texas a little more. I'm just more comfortable with them. So I'll take the 2.5 points, and I'll take them to win as well.
So I want to ask you this year. What I like to do is go down sometimes in these big games. You'll see stars just play big time, right? Just take over games or win on third down, whatever it may be, right? I think the two best players in this game and probably the country. It's probably Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs. Is that crazy to
Yes.
say?
No, that's not crazy.
3, 4, and 5 probably are on Texas's roster, right? Anthony Hill, Colin Simmons,
He's up there.
and yeah,
I mean, that's
man, I don't
probably what you're
know.
looking at. I,
That's the thing is there's
but I
so
mean, the
much.
top 50 players in college football, though. I mean, Wisner's probably top 50 player. Uh, Jack Endry's probably top 100, 150 player in college football. A lot of these offensive linemen on Texas' side probably top 100 players as well. I
Couple
mean,
defensive backs probably like Malik Muhammad, Derek Williams probably have a shot there. Like I think my point is like 3 through 10. I think you're going to see a couple more Texas players than you would Ohio State, and that could ultimately be the difference. You brought up a good point though with that wide receiver room of Texas. That's what I want to see too. Is like I like Emmett Mosley, borderline really like him.
love.
We know how you like DeAndre Moore and what he did last year. Ryan Wingo, we feel pretty good about him, in his talent, right? And what he showed last year in flashes. Like, who's going to emerge as like the guy in this room? Do they have multiple guys? What about the freshmen? Like, how much run does French or McCutcheon get, or Lockett or Terry? Like, all these, like, what are we seeing in that rotation? That'll be an interesting thing I would like to glean from this because it's going to be a pretty darn good litmus test for them, especially early in the season.
Let's head over now to LSU Clemson. I mean, boy, 3.5 line in favor of the Clemson Tigers, not the LSU Tigers. And you got two of the better quarterbacks in college football. You've got an insanely talented defensive line for the Clemson side. You got LSU replacing plenty of talent on their offensive line, and a lot of really nice weapons on both sides in both receiver rooms. I mean, this is going to be. These are two teams I think a lot of people are projecting to be in the playoffs. Clemson Loki has pressure because they're the clear runaway favorite to win this thing in the ACC. And then LSU also has the added pressure of like Brian Kelly having not made the playoffs yet in his time as a head coach there, even though he's had a Heisman Trophy winner and he's won the SEC West once. Like, okay, whatever. People think he's on the hot seat. I mean, if he doesn't make the college football playoffs, the pressure ramps up for sure. But that's the thing about these two teams. Like, you get these teams matched up in week one, and just like Texas and Ohio State, both of these teams have some college football playoff expectations. So, CD, what are you looking at here? What do you like in LSU Clemson?
Yeah, it's going to be fun watching these quarterbacks go head to head. A couple big time playmakers on both sides. I would love to see the trenches here. You talked about LSU replacing a lot of their offensive line, and I think if you talk to people in Baton Rouge and Louisiana, they internally, I think, are excited about this group. The talent's obviously there. I Not that I'm questioning that, but I want to see it before. I just kind of believe you can lose a couple of NFL draft picks, first round left tackle, and just be fine. This would be a great test here. It's a really good defensive line that Clemson's put together. One of the best they've had there since they were legit competing for national titles, and it's a good sign. I think if you're Dabo Sweeney to get back there, T.J. Parker, Peter Woods, a transfer defensive lineman for Clemson and Will Height. I mean, yeah, it's going to be fun. I think that specific matchup, and that's kind of where I'm leaning on Clemson. 4 points, is that we're picking out of 4 points? That's a lot to take on, right? That's something that definitely is, yeah, like I said, a lot to take on, but in a big game like this, crossing that field goal. But I just think that defensive line can give them such cushion in certain ways. Maybe if their offense isn't firing on all cylinders, maybe Klubnik is struggling here and there. They can't run the football like they wanted to. I think that defensive line can really give them, a lot of things to do this year, obviously, but in this game, especially at home too. And Nussmeier struggled. We talked about. You brought up a great point. Like, if you actually dive in the numbers, he's not terrible under pressure compared to the rest of college football. Like, a college football quarterback under pressure is just a bad quarterback, right? That's just what happens. But we have seen him on the road in big environments against good defensive lines, against pressure. We have seen stuff go from bad to worse and change kind of on a dime there. So that's what I'm looking for, is to see if Clemson's a legit national title contender, which I think a lot of people think they are. Like, can that defensive line live up to that?
Yeah, and honestly, LSU defense, it's improved just about every year. The last couple of years, you lose, one of your best pass rushers. Do you end up replacing some of that interior defensive line? I think a lot of people internally would say yes. Dominique McKinley is a guy that could potentially step up. Bernard Gooden, the guy that they got from South Florida, I think a lot of people are pretty high on. That's a wait and see for me for sure. But we'll pick this at 3.5 just because I don't like pushes and there are 3.5s out there. I'll lay it with Clemson here. Getting them at home too. LSU also not having won. I mean, an opening season game for how many years? Since like 2019, right? And not that should really actually play an impact into the picks that we're making right now, but I think that is something mentally that is it's something that's going through the minds of coaching staffs. It certainly goes through the minds of fans, but I like this Clemson team a lot more. I think it's a little bit more complete. I don't necessarily like Cade Klubnik better than Garrett Nussmeier. Actually, I would say the opposite, but I'm just a little bit more excited about this Clemson defense than I am Clemson's defense versus LSU's high-powered offense than I am about LSU's defense against Clemson's offense. But who knows? The thing is, though, CD, if LSU comes out here and stomps Clemson, then I think like everyone's flipped on their head right now all of a sudden, because then it's like, wait. This SEC, we were talking about Georgia, we were talking about Alabama, we were talking about Texas. Like, now where does LSU lay into this thing, right? And I mean, I think they were pretty heavy, like 4th odds on favorite, but all of a sudden you're going to see odds start to drop pretty big. right? So if you're a guy that's like, if you trade like stock options, I guess, on like call sheet or something, and you like LSU to win this game, just buy them to win the SEC and then sell it after this game if they win. So, and even if they don't win, doesn't even matter because it's not an SEC game. So that would be my recommendation if you're into that kind of thing. But yeah, I won't be betting on this, but I'll take Clemson in the points, and I'll lay the points. Notre Dame, Miami. Carson Beck, CJ Carr. It's funny because like I didn't anticipate Carson Beck, before last year. I would have never guessed that Carson Beck would be playing for Miami. I would have told you, oh yeah, he's off to the NFL, whatever. And then CJ Carr probably could have guessed, but he hasn't proven a lick yet, right? Highly rated recruit, right? Riley Leonard, the thing about him is like, yeah, even times when he couldn't throw the ball, he had like 20 rushing touchdowns? Like he found ways to win games outside of his arm when he needed to. Can CJ Carr do that? I know that they have some weapons that they really like on this team from a wide receiver and tight end perspective. Will they be able to take advantage of those? Because they haven't really been able to take advantage of those the past couple of years. So, but if CJ Carr is really good, like Notre Dame, once again, is a college football playoff contender. I'll say potential national championship contender. Too many questions right now to say that, but if CJ Carr is good, I think you can start to have that conversation. And what better way than to go on the road against Miami, against a defense that, has struggled the last couple seasons. And we'll see what the Hurricanes got to bring to Notre Dame here. But the spread's only, I'm seeing it at 2.5. Could I be right with that, CD?
Yeah, it's interesting. I when I was thinking about this matchup, in the like early off seasons, I was like, oh, okay, like yeah, here's Miami going to be a little bit more flashy, what they were last year in terms of lighting up the scoreboard, throwing the ball around all around the yard, and then here's Notre Dame being a little bit more grinded out, and obviously winning in the ways that they wanted to win with defense and special teams, and just willing your team to win like Riley Leonard did. To be honest, the closer and closer I get, I feel like the identities of these teams will almost be flipped in terms of what they were last year. You talked about Notre Dame and the great, or what we think is a pretty solid and fun wide receiver core weapons room that they have. Jeremiah Love, obviously, out of the backfield. Jadaeon Price, those two are fantastic together. And like a talented former 5-star CJ Carr kind of guy to like kind of be a little bit more flashy and be a little bit more explosive offensively through the air, down the field. And then here's Miami, and I almost trust Miami. I think I'm a little scarred from Carson Beck last year. Like I think the whole idea of him being instantly still an elite quarterback in college football is something that's concerning, especially after his injury too. I mean, he did get hurt in that SEC championship game, and Georgia decided to move on from him. Not that means he's a bad quarterback or anything like that, but if Georgia wanted to keep him, I think they would have made an effort to, or at least tried. And so it's really, really interesting. And I almost expect or believe in Miami's running game with Mark Fletcher and et cetera guys, Jamar Brown, Jordan Lyle, and then that big physical offensive line too to like kind of get after teams. So that's what's so super bizarre about it. And here I am. I'm gonna go Miami plus 2.5. And it's because of that reason. Because I worry about CJ Carr on the road. I worry about Notre Dame all of a sudden kind of flipping the script here and being, down the field passing, potentially taking advantage of a Miami defense that's brand new. I mean, you got a new defense coordinator. You have how many transfers in that secondary? You got a lot of players that you're kind of throwing in there, but still a lot of talent, especially in that front seven. I'm seeing Justin Scott, right? Ruben Bain, Armando Blunt, Akeem Mesidor, guys that are pretty highly recruited. And then obviously a couple good linebackers in that group as well. And then OJ Frederick is, probably the best player on their defense, if not, one of them as a young kid. So I'm high. And Corey Heatherman, I thought, was fantastic for Minnesota last year. What he does getting after the quarterback on third down, trying to get off the field was really, really impressive. And I think, having the athletes that this Miami defense has will only make him potentially better and be able to execute some more schemes than he could have done at a school like Minnesota or Rutgers that he was at before. So call me crazy. I'm going to go Miami plus 2.5. How do you feel?
Well, I mean, like, if you like them to win this game, I mean, the over and win total is 9.5. You can get the over at like plus 135. I don't dislike your logic at all with that. And I actually think Carson Beck is a little bit better than people gave him credit for last year. I mean, there were some boneheaded decisions for sure, but how many drops were those wide receivers going to have? How many? I mean, it was definitely a surplus.
Yeah.
As crazy as this is to say, because last year I would not have said the same, like preseason. I think there's a little bit more firepower on this Notre Dame team. I think this Notre Dame offense is a lot better than Miami's offense, and I could be proven wrong, but I think at the wide receiver room, particularly, you're seeing a little bit of a drop off there for the Hurricanes. At quarterback, obviously, Cam Ward was the best quarterback in college football last year. He was an absolute wagon. He was so good. And then this Notre Dame offensive line is one of the better ones in the country. They got a wide receiver group that I think is better than Miami's. I think at running back, I mean, they're obviously better. It really just comes down to CJ Carr, right? And how good does he really need to be to win this game on the road when you're returning a lot of guys in this defense that you like a lot, particularly in that secondary, which is really good. And then that defensive line, I think, is going to be a lot better than people are going to give him credit for it, despite losing Howard Cross and Riley Mills. So I'll roll with Notre Dame here and feel just okay about it and not great about it. But this is going to be an awesome game. I will be locked in for this one. Let's go over to Utah UCLA. I mean, old Pac-12 coming back. Utah revamped offense, new quarterback, one of the better offensive lines in the country. UCLA coming with Nico Iamaleava. What a turn of events for these two teams just from a season ago. CD, how are we feeling about this game? UCLA is going to be getting 6 points here at home.
Yeah, they got a lot of pieces that they're kind of stitching together through that portal. I mean, it seems like, second-year head coach Deshaun Foster really went after a couple positions. Obviously, the headliner being Nico Iamaleava in that spring portal. I think that's also not getting talked about enough is that they got a new offensive coordinator, right? The Eric Bieniemy didn't work out for you. Here comes Nico Iamaleava. Like, what can it be? How good can it be week one, especially against a Utah team, right, who's historically had a pretty good defense and a very well-coached defense? Morgan Scully's one of the better defense coordinators in the country. And then you top that on the fact that the offensive coordinator for Utah is Jason Beck. Man, Jason Beck bringing his quarterback over, Devin Dampier, a little bit more undersized, maybe not your prototypical first-round pick guy that's going to be, lighting up and making NFL draft or NFL GMs, just kind of oogle and ogle over him. But he's a really good college quarterback. He was fantastic last year. Got to clean up the turnovers. I expect that to get better. Another year in this Beck scheme, but also with better playmakers and offensive line play, really good offensive line play in front of them. That's where I expect them to win this game, even if your passing game isn't going to be crisp in week one, right, on the road week one. I expect you to be able to run the football when you want to with this offensive line, with a couple of running backs you're bringing in from the portal. That's what I'm seeing here, and that's what I want to see. And then also, too, UCLA is replacing some pretty good front seven players from last year's team. And they went out in the portal, got some guys, and they're going to be obviously playing big-time minutes for them. We'll see how they adjust right away. But I like Utah in this spot here. I feel pretty confident in that. I've been seeing a lot of momentum push for UCLA, in July and in August as we creep closer to Labor Day weekend. I'm not fully bought in. To be quite frankly, I don't see it yet. I'm going Utah, and I feel pretty good about that. And um, I'll lay 6.5 if I have to on the road.
I mean, this is one of the tougher schedules in the country, and getting a win right here would mean a lot for UCLA moving forward if you're trying to make a bowl game. I mean, you got Penn State later in that season. You got to go to Indiana, who should be pretty good, Nebraska, Ohio State, Washington, USC, and then, of course, Utah right here. I just listed 7 games that you could potentially lose. And at UNLV, who I know didn't look great in week 0, but they got a lot of really good talent on that team as well. So if you don't figure things out early with how many transfers, try 1 billion transfers. I mean, you brought in 14 or 15 on the defensive side of the ball alone. In the secondary, you brought in almost double digits. That's nuts. Deshaun Foster, he hasn't necessarily won me over yet. But if you find a way to navigate this season, boy, I mean, that would be remarkable. I'm with you. I'll ride with Utah with what I know, which is a great offensive line, a great offensive coordinator, a frisky quarterback, and a defense that's going to play their nards off for their future head coach on that defense side of the ball.
Morgan Skelly, yeah. Can I ask you this real quick? Like, quarterback, who would you rather have? Who has the edge in this game here?
That's such a silly question because the answer should be Nico Malieva, but my heart of hearts wants me to say Devin Dampier just because of how explosive we saw him in that offense a year ago. We'll see how that translates, but I'll say that the right thing to say is probably Nico, but my heart is telling me that I'd rather have a Devin Dampier on my team.
I think Dampier outplays him today or this weekend because that's just who's around him and all that. Nico, UCLA is battling injuries at the wide receiver position. Like Flores, not going to be available for a while. Mikey Matthews, Carter Shaw. Are these guys ready? Quasi. Are these guys ready to play for him? And then you're breaking a new quarterback over the summer, too. Working with 2s and 3s in your wide receiver core. Yeah, that's what it's a little concerning. And by the way, the answer probably is Nico because of the upside there and what he can be in November and December. But yeah, I think Dampier outplays him, and that's why I think they win, among other reasons. But yeah.
Auburn Baylor, the least talked about football game in week 1 that has legitimate college football playoff implications. Think about it. All right. This is the difference potentially between, your 9-3 Auburn, your 10-2 Baylor, your 9-3, 10-2 Auburn, versus your 8-4, 9-3, or your 10-2, 9-3 Baylor, and your 9-3, 8-4, in 4 Baylor. 10-2, there's a really good chance for both of these teams that it gets you into college football playoffs. And here's why. Because one, Auburn, with that SEC schedule, it's coming. Okay. They will have enough. If you go 10-2 with that schedule, you're likely in the college football playoffs. Baylor, if you go 10-2 with this schedule, when you have Auburn at SMU in your out of conference, and then Arizona State, Kansas State, Utah, at TCU as well, that is significant. Those are good wins. If you find a way to win 2 or 3 of those games and win the ones that you should, I think Dave Aranda's done a really nice job, particularly on this offensive side of the football, getting this with Jake Spavital in the right direction. Sawyer Robertson as a quarterback, one of my dark horses to win Heisman, already placed money, plus 10,000. Here we go. Bryson Washington, one of the better running backs, not talked about in college football. For some reason, I don't know why people don't talk. He's one of the better ones in college football. People don't talk about him. Josh Cameron, Ashton Hawkins at the receiver position, Michael Trigg at tight end, and an offensive line that, as you like to say, are all of legal drinking age. And they're some big boys over there. I like this group a lot on the offense side of football. The defense for Baylor, I don't know how well they have to play because, again, the offense for Auburn, while it's being coached by Hugh Freeze and They have a projected really good offensive line. I think it might be a little bit worse than what people are projecting it to be quite frank. And who knows what Jackson Arnold's going to look like. I'm a little bit higher on Jackson Arnold. I think he'll be successful somewhat in the system, but is it going to happen right away? I don't know. So you got, a transfer quarterback for Auburn that's trying to figure things out week one, a plethora of transfers for Baylor on the defensive side of the football to try to figure things out. And yes, David Aranda finally figured out how to use the transfer portal. All right, kind of a big deal. He's also starting to figure out how to recruit, which is big news. So I like Baylor in the spot. Give me the Bears at home, plus 2.5, and give me them to win.
Yeah, I mean, for all the reasons you said, I'm a little bit less confident in you. I do see the talent on Auburn, and that could potentially be there, and them putting it together, and doing it. I'm on the under for them for the year, so this was more one of the obviously a toss-up game. I mean, look at the spread; it's on the road for Auburn, especially early in the season. I mean, what are we going to get from Arnold? What are we going to get? How healthy is Auburn's wide receiver room? How in sync are they with a couple of obviously new faces? Eric Singleton, obviously the headliner, Horatio Fields, as well as you're breaking a new quarterback and probably a new system too, a lot different than maybe what you saw last year, a couple years ago as well. It's just hard to really. Here's what I'll say, and we talked about this off air a little bit beforehand. I feel like I know what Baylor's going to be. I like Baylor a lot this year. I like the veterans they have coming back. I love their quarterback. You talked about running back. I'll throw in Cole Wilson and you reuniting with Ashton Hawkins at wide receiver, a couple of Texas State receivers from the portal from this class and the class before. Well, defensively, we'll see. But also, I trust Dave Aranda to get it together there enough and put out a workable product out there on week one. It's tough seeing a lot of talent on Auburn and what could be, and just imagining Jackson Arnold putting it together and imagining Hugh Freeze, dialing things up and the playmakers Auburn has. That's what worries me. I do tend to think though that if the higher scoring this game gets though, the more it probably favors Baylor and how consistent Sawyer Robertson can move the football down the field. And the reality is, and I know it's hard to predict, in individual games, Auburn has been awful in turnover margin, right? And past couple of years, that's just part of what they've been. Can they flip that on the road here? Lastly, I do want to ask you, so let me tell you my pick real quick. I'll go Baylor plus 2.5, and I'll just take them to win. Why not? But it's going to be one I'm not super confident about, one I'm very intrigued to watch on Friday night, along with a couple other games. Dave Aranda, defensively, Hugh Freeze, offensively. Who do you trust more and why?
That is such a good question. Probably, I'm going to lean Hugh Freeze because I think we have too much of that old Dave Aranda, like stuck in my head. Like, I think Hugh Freeze is probably a better offensive mind than Dave Aranda, at least today in 2025.
Yeah.
Who knows what 2026 holds? I think probably if you were to ask me 4 or 5 years ago, I would have said Dave Aranda, probably. Well, I definitely would have. Because Hugh Freeze was in his rehab stint, at some other schools. But yeah, probably Hugh Freeze. Is that probably right?
I think so. And in a big game, and I think they understand the importance of this game. Maybe national media is freaking lying to you. Maybe YouTube TV won't let you watch the game, but I mean, sorry. Stream East. I mean, not that we're doing whatever, but like this is a huge game. We've seen Hugh Freeze time and time again, like just be in his bag in certain spots. So that's another concern there too, with me taking Baylor. But yeah, I'll go Baylor plus 2.5. Going to be fantastic. So many storylines, so many coaching matchups. Obviously, connections with Baylor and Auburn and whatever else may be. So a lot of fun here.
College football playoff sleeper. Georgia Tech going to Colorado. They're favored by 4.5. These Yellow Jackets, man, this offense, we talked about it. How many times have we talked about it, right? I mean, of course, You lose your defensive coordinator, but from top to bottom, this is one of the better coaching staffs that you'll see in the ACC. Uh, Buster Faulkner as your offensive coordinator, Brent Key just having his hand on that offensive line, right? Uh, which is just severely overperformed since Brent Key has been in the building. No matter what names, are for those Yellow Jackets. I mean, they just overperform every year. Uh, Maybe obviously they're not as elite as some of the other offensive lines in this conference, but boy, Haynes King at quarterback, Jamal Haynes at running back, Eric Rivers was really good at FIU. Really good. You did lose Eric Singleton, but Eric Rivers was really good at FIU. That's a solid transfer portal guy to get, and they've done well with whoever's been there, at that wide receiver spot. So, I love Georgia Tech a lot this year. Colorado has me a little worried. Caden Salter was really good at Liberty. Played some competition that wasn't necessarily fantastic. I think he also gets to play in a very beneficial system. I don't know what he's going to look like in a Pat Shurmur offense. I don't know what these wide receivers are going to look like without, your Jimmy Horn and your, Travis Hunter. I do think Shedeur Sanders was a pretty good quarterback for you. I think he's probably going to be better than what Caden Salter or Julian Lewis, if Julian Lewis has to come in at some point this season. The offensive line is another overhaul. The defensive line, I think, will be pretty solid, though, although you lose some guys. The linebacking core is going to be completely new. The secondary is completely reworked. But you got some serious talent on this Colorado team. Like, there's no doubt about that. But I think I like Georgia Tech here, right? Don't you?
Yeah, I like Georgia Tech for a lot of their games this season, and I'm sure we're not done previewing them. Yeah, I trust more the returning production. Like, I think Haynes King is significantly better than what Colorado's going to be trotting out there. I love Haynes, and plus this combo, the offensive line, like you said, and then what seems like has been a focal point for Georgia Tech in their offseason and their question marks. Every year it's been, well, what about the defensive back room? Well, what about these guys? And the good news here is it's a lot of guys that have played a lot of football together. The bad news is there's been some ups and downs, right? Namely that Georgia game last year, although you did battle a lot of injuries in that game too. So I'll give you maybe a pass there. But that could be a concern. If, obviously we've seen those guys struggle in the past, but I still feel pretty okay about them trotting out there. I like effort at linebacker. You're bringing in a bunch of new guys defensive line-wise, although you hit on some portal guys last year. So hopefully you can do that again this year. Yeah, it seems like you have an edge at quarterback, running back, offensive line, defensive back, right? Different spots here, a lot of different position groups. You kind of go down the list here, and that's what you feel good. And then for Colorado, yeah, you're patching. You got a lot of transfers on the offensive line, not only from this year but in previous years, right? So it's tough. It's tough week one to come out and be ready to play. Although I feel like we've seen Colorado do that recently, where they come out firing early in the season, get it together. I will say though, like, I think I don't hate this roster up and down. Like, it feels like a lot more complete roster than they've had the past couple of years. I think it's going to be hard to understate, it would be hard to overstate the importance and the loss of Shedeur and Travis Hunter. I know those are like your headliners and yada yada yada, and that's the most like whatever boring statement, obvious statement ever, but those guys were so important for you on so many different levels. What kind of identity are we going to see here from Colorado? Are they going to run the football very well? Are they going to be a pass-heavy team again? Defensively, is that going to be a strength? Because I don't hate this defense either, even though you got a lot of transfers. There's some good names here too. And you're at home in Folsom Field. Say what you want about Colorado last decade and a half. Folsom Field turned into a really good atmosphere and like a legit home field advantage for you, especially prime time, especially week one this year. I think they'll turn out. I just feel good about Georgia Tech in this roster. I think Brent Key will have them ready to play, going on the road, getting a very, very solid win. The good news for both these teams, is like the aspirations for them, like realistic or not, like is college football playoff, right? It's week one. Everyone should be looking for that. And their best way to that is the conference title game, right? Winning your conference, getting that automatic bid. This is not a conference game. So it's not the end of the world. You lose this game, but it's a really, really nice resume builder, nice confidence builder, good litmus test for these teams to see how they're doing, what the identities might be. But yeah, give me Georgia Tech and the points on the road.
Over to the Big 12 and ACC. Again, after just talking about Georgia Tech and Colorado, TCU plays North Carolina. We get to watch Josh Hoover play football. Again, I mean, just gunslinger. Guy that's going to be pushing the ball down the field. You don't have the receivers that you did last year. No Jack Beck, no Savion Williams. But Eric McAllister might be really good. Came from Boise State just the year before. Maybe didn't crack that upper threshold, that top group of wide receivers, but that's a guy that's from that area. He's going to pop for sure. Kavorian Barnes comes over for UTSA. Didn't have the best season last year. Will be interesting to see like what kind of situation they got going at running back as the season goes along. But yeah, I'm not necessarily super impressed with like the rest of this team. You've got some pieces on the defense side of the ball, guys that you like. Andy Avalos now in his this will be his second year coaching the defense. We'll see after moving to him from a year ago, if that ends up being the right move, I think like he's a good defensive coordinator, but we'll see what kind of improvements that they're going to have to make here. And they will probably with North Carolina coming in here as 3.5-point underdogs. Bill Belichick is now the head coach of North Carolina, which is nuts. And I think this is a team that's got some serious talent. I think players in the transfer portal legitimately came because they wanted to play for Bill Belichick, which was a little bit skeptical about this hire at first. But this is going to be a definite wait and see for me because this is not an easy week one matchup for TCU, not an easy week one matchup for UNC. I would say that UNC, if they win this game, they set themselves up pretty decently with the rest of their schedule. I mean, you pull Cal, Virginia, Wake Forest, and Stanford on your ACC schedule. Like, you want to talk about not necessarily dark horse to win the whole thing, but a dark horse to make the ACC championship. Just saying, it's an interesting conversation to have right there. How are we feeling about this game, CD?
Yeah, I think you have to start with the coaching staffs here. Obviously, Bill Belichick's the headliner. And you know me, I love a good storyline in college football. I think that's what makes college football so freaking awesome. Doesn't it feel a little bit like when Deion was coming back or came to Colorado, and here we are, TCU again on the road? I don't think that's going to happen again. Obviously, the spread is much, much shorter in this one. And Deion is a much different character than what Bill Belichick is, but also equal in name and popularity. And this will be a Monday night. Like, it'll be a massive spot. Good for ESPN for getting this on there. I'm sure their ratings do fantastic. But not only Belichick, you got Freddie Kitchens, right? You got Steve Belichick, right? You got a couple, Matt Lombardi, or the Lombardi is there, right? You've got a bunch of NFL guys. Like, how are you going to be adjusting to your to college? Now, Freddie Kitchens has been there for a little bit, so like he's kind of used to that, which is nice. On the other side, Sonny Dykes, like, this is a big year for him. Like, I don't think that's crazy to say that. Not that he's on the hot seat at all, but this is a big year for him because it feels like a long time since they were in the college football playoffs. This would be a massive start for you. You also, like you said, Andy Avalos coming back, Kendall Briles, and doing his thing at the offensive coordinator spot, getting more comfortable with Josh Hoover. And then I got to throw out Malcolm Kelly, like the Malcolm Kelly from the Oklahoma rap video. It's just awesome. So anyway, what a great coaching staff here. Let's get to the players and talk about them. Yeah, for TCU, I'm looking now up and down this roster. I see a lot of guys I saw last year. I see a lot of guys in the offensive line that I feel okay about. A couple young guys, maybe some new guys you're breaking in, but all in all, it's not terrible. I don't think the cupboard's bare at all. in terms of having Hoover run for his life all over. I think Hoover's really freaking good. And I think he's and I like Gio Lopez. I do. We've been a Sunbelt channel here for seems like a couple years now. Josh Hoover is like like an actual edge in this game, I think. And you've got some talent at the receiver position. Plus, how many playmakers are coming back on this team, right? Obiazer, Elam Zor at the linebacker spot. A couple deals, deal there. The law firm on the defensive line. Plus, you got Bud Clark, Canada, Jamel Johnson, guys that have just been playing there for you. Supplement with a couple portal guys here and there. All of a sudden, this TCU team, this roster can actually compete and be a very, very dangerous team in the Big 12. I like TCU in this spot here. I'm going TCU -3, even on the road. It's going to be a mess, I think, in Chapel Hill. I on Labor Day, I can imagine the atmosphere and the build up to that game, especially being Monday night. It's going to be just incredible. I cannot wait to watch it, but I'll go TCU -3.
Yeah, it just might take a couple weeks for these transfers for North Carolina, particularly on the defense side of the football, to kind of gel. But the thing is, though, like, what rarely do you see a better mind on the defensive side of the ball than Bill Belichick? You know, it is a very different game than the NFL. Not saying that he can't make that adjustment. I think he definitely can. I'm gonna make. I'm gonna reluctantly go with you here with TCU -3.5. I have a feeling that this is one that we end up kind of looking a little bit silly for, and we're like, oh, Gio Lopez just threw for 280 yards and 3 touchdowns, and ran for 60 yards and another touchdown. How funny is that? And Josh Hoover threw another 3 interceptions, but still threw somehow 400 yards. So, yeah, this is an interesting game that I'm very excited about. This is the Monday game?
Yep.
Let's go, man. Monday Night Football. Here we go. Last one we're going to talk about here today. Nebraska playing in Cincinnati at Arrowhead. Nebraska is favored by 7. That's a whole touchdown. Cincinnati started the season 5-2 last year, dropped their last 5 games. They finished 5-7. Nebraska getting a lot of buzz this year. The over-under win total is a little bit higher than it has been in previous years. Dylan Raiola is their best quarterback. It's probably the best offense that we've seen Nebraska field in maybe a decade, right?
It's a Taylor Martinez.
Yeah. But will that translate to wins? And how good actually is Cincinnati? Because I don't think people really know the answer to that question, or casually. I don't think people necessarily know the answer to that question. I don't think Cincinnati's that bad, right? You got a coach here who's, we'll call him on the hot seat, all right? We'll call it as it is. He's definitely in a situation where he needs to make bowl games, and he needs to start winning more games. I think their over-under win total is at 6.5. You got a really nice quarterback in Brendan Sorsby that you like a lot. The wide receiver room, Xavier Henderson was really good for you. But then other than that, bringing this new set of transfers, you got some serious speed, you've got experience, and you've got production from Cyrus Allen, Caleb Goody, Jeff Caldwell. One big reason too that this team kind of fell apart was like injuries. Defensive line wise, you get Jalen Hunt and Micah Coleman back. And how about a Dante Corleone that's not dealing with blood clots just a couple weeks before the season starts? So you kind of get this refreshed, revamped up defensive line. And then, of course, they went in the portal to kind of supplement some stuff. There were some issues for them, but they definitely have a lot of pieces there. Like, I don't think Cincinnati's bad, guys. A touchdown is a lot. I'll take Nebraska to win, but I'll take the points with Cincinnati. I'll take them +7 here. This could just be a classic neutral site all-timer week 1. Fourth quarter drive by Dylan Raiola. They kick a field goal to win the game. That's the kind of stuff that I'm envisioning here. In Cincinnati, are we forgetting that Tommy Walker and Evan Pryor are their running backs as well for a team that has run the ball so effectively these last couple years, and an offensive line that I do not dislike. So all I'm going to say is I kind of like Cincinnati here +7. Not enough for it to be in my best bets, but I'll try to middle it right there. Nebraska to win. Cincinnati cover +7. What say you?
Yeah, I love the points you brought up about Cincinnati. They won some nice transfer portal battles to get some guys. So you mentioned Tommy Walker, Joe Cotton playing tackle for him was a guy a lot of people wanted. Matthew McDoom, the corner from Coastal, I think is a really good football player, and could do some fun things with his versatility back there and his playmaking in that second level or third level of your defense. Plus, Sorsby's back. I mean, I've been trying to push the Brendan Sorsby narrative, trying to push it. He was up and down last year, his first full year being the starter at Cincinnati. Um, I do like this Cincinnati team. I think Nebraska comes out and takes care of business here. I will lay 7 with them. It moves to 7.5. That would make me a little bit more concerned, a lot more concerned, obviously. And I know, stop me if you've heard me say it before, or you've heard, Nebraska having off-season hype. This is the year they put it together. I think this feels a lot different than what it's been. I've been the guy that's been, hold on a minute, let's pump the brakes on Nebraska year in and year out. Let's wait before we just oogle and ogle about some of the talent on this team and whatever it may be. I think Matt Rule's like a legit good coach, great, borderline great coach, and we'll get a lot out of this team. I do worry about the defensive staff changeover. I do worry potentially if you do have those guys, Tommy Walker and the kid from Pryor, the kid from Ohio State, really getting after you, right? That could be concerning, especially, keeping Dylan Raiola off the field, keeping them in kind of push mode. But I like the portal additions Nebraska had. I think they're going to be really fun. I think this is to me feels like a much bigger game for Nebraska than it does for Cincinnati. Obviously, Cincinnati wants to win this game and they want to win it bad. They would love to show up Nebraska on Thursday night, right, in front of the whole world. But I just think Nebraska's going to play with some urgency. I think they're going to play with consistency. You got Holgerson in his first full game as the full offensive coordinator. Him and Raiola, I think he'll do some special things. It's a good spot for Nebraska to be in here. Give me Nebraska -7.
It's not crazy. Let's head over to our best bets segment. I've got 3 of them. You've got 5 of them for this week 1. Normally, I feel like I have more, but I did have more, but a lot of them have moved, over the course of these months, right? I'm pretty much shopping almost every week, but let's look. I'll let you start us off here, but you got 6, right? I said 5.
6,
You got 6.
yeah.
Wow.
The late ad.
That's huge. And who knows? I might throw out something on Twitter that will. Our Twitter plays, if you haven't been here before during the season, like if you see a Twitter play that we put out, you just hop on the other side. Yeah. All right, immediately.
That's why you want to have followed us on Twitter. That's why you want to have notifications on. Then you can hop on the other side.
Yeah. We're normally like really good like here on the show. And by the way, we're picking these like not when these lines open. Like if we were at opening lines, I'd be taking Mississippi State. Or if we're taking these on Monday, I'd be taking Mississippi State like -11.5. But it's interesting like that. But yeah, let's talk about it. CD, give us your first play. Give us 2, and then for you'll do 2, I do 1. You do 2, I do 1. Let's do that.
Yeah, I'll give you like Bama -13.5. That line's moved since it's opened. Started 11.5. I don't care really that much. I don't know. I don't think Florida State's going to be that much improved. I think Bama does get significantly better than they were last year. Consistently, I think they're going to come out even on the road and handle business. 13.5, I know is a lot of points to swallow against a really a roster with a lot of talent, as well as a tough environment to go and play in, especially in week 1 when you really don't know for certain how these teams are going to come out and look. But I'll go Bama -13.5. And then, right. One more, and then I'll take Texas State -13.5. Another bigger spread. They're hosting Eastern Michigan. You got Brad Jackson announced as starting quarterback. G.J. Kinney, a lot of talent there. A lot of buzz with Texas State as a program moving potentially conferences in the future. I mean, Give me the Bobcats here, minus 13.5, taking on. And I hate to fake Chris Craig because I think he's really freaking good for Eastern Michigan as a coach. I think there's a lot more talent though on that Texas State roster than Eastern Michigan. Could run it up on them.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thought. I don't have that play, but I see the vision for sure. Did get burned last time, but on Texas State to plow North Texas in the bowl game until Drew Mestamaker decided that he's the best college football player to ever live. So, little sore from that one. I'll go with one here. Give me one that we talked about earlier. Let's go Baylor plus 2.5. I feel really good about this Baylor team this year. This is a team that I have invested some shares into them winning the Big 12, them making the college football playoff, them doing some serious damage. So I guess like the thing is, if you want to take their over on their win total, I'd say just take them to win this game because you're getting it at better odds. And like, I don't know. I mean, they could still hit their over on their win total and not win this game, but if they win this game, like they're going to hit the over on their win total is what's going to happen. So I like Baylor plus 2.5 for all the reason that we talked about earlier in the video with Baylor and Auburn. So let's go in Waco. Feed me Dave Arando in a Keystone year with Sawyer Robertson, dark horse Heisman favorite.
Yeah, I love football being big back in Waco, man. It's an underratedly really nice atmosphere there down in Texas. Speaking of Texas, I know I took Texas State earlier. In the big one, I'm going to go Texas plus 2.5 on the road. I know it's concerning. We talked about that in depth. We feel like we've been talking that in a couple of videos now because of how important that game is. I think Texas is really, 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 really good. And I feel like they are much more ready to play this game week 1 than Ohio State. I think come playoffs, I wouldn't be surprised to change my pick, even if Texas does win and cover, obviously, being underdogs. But I'll go anytime you give me Texas and some points this year. I think I might be riding that unless things drastically change. But yeah, give me Texas plus 2.5.
Nice. I like that a lot. I mean, I'm with you on the pick. I don't think I'm not betting that. I don't feel good enough about that to bet that, but I like it. What else you got?
Moving back to the G5 here, staying in the state of Texas, although I'll be fading University of Texas El Paso at Utah State. Give me Utah State minus 5.5. A couple coaches that we like on this channel: Scotty Waldron at UTEP in year 2, and Bronco Mendenhall. That's right, Bronco Mendenhall is at Utah State minus 5.5. Bryson Barnes versus Malachi Nelson. I mean, just fantastic. A couple years ago, it was going to be a Pac-12. A couple years ago, that was going to be a Pac-12 matchup, and here we are with the QSUB and the Mountain West.
Oh gosh,
it's a shame, but no. Listen, I think it'll be a fun one. I think Bronco Mendenhall is just a really, really good coach. They'll be ready to play. 5.5 seems too low for this line. Yeah, Utah State.
Yeah, I like that. I love Bronco Mendenhall, but I also love Scotty Walden. You know, it's a it giveth and a taketh, right? Second play, I'm going to go with me Oregon State minus 1.5 against Cal. I think Cal might be in trouble with what they lost on the defensive side of the foot. I'm not even just talking about Mendoza because I think that they got a quarterback that's really interesting there. True freshman 5-star that got the nod over Devin Brown, which is wild.
After coming in late.
Yes.
In spring.
Wild, right? Wild. So I think that there is kind of that frisky element there where it is tough to bet against a quarterback in his first game. I know a lot of people would feel the opposite, but for me, it's like, I don't know what this guy can do. You know, it's a little scary. But I kind of like Oregon State's defense. Trent Bray, I think he's a pretty solid coach. I think Oregon State fans, I think, are a lot more excited about this team than even a couple years ago. You got Malik Murphy at quarterback, who I think is pretty solid, a little bit underrated. And I like them at home here, minus 1.5. Here we go.
Yeah, it's an underratedly kind of important game for those programs in terms of building that. Those coaching staffs would love a win in week 1. Old Pac-12 game.
Yeah, it's a shame it's not a conference game anymore.
Is that late at night? Is that Is it after
Uh,
dark?
I think it's a pretty late night game. It's nice to have these
Yep.
bets spread around. Yeah, to 9:30 Central. It's
Good.
nice to have these games a little littered, throughout Saturday. So you got a reason to stay up, Although we do, Utah UCLA.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, wait, that's not Saturday. That's late Friday. That's a late Friday night game.
No, that's late Saturday night as well. It's,
Oh,
it's
because
11
Sunday,
p.m. Eastern time for
because
me.
Virginia Tech South Carolina is on Sunday.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Oh,
It's 2 games on Sunday. Take that, the
yeah,
NFL. Yeah, they're
take
off.
that. All right.
I'll give me my last two here. Speaking of Virginia Tech in South Carolina minus 7.5. I know it's over a touchdown. I know Virginia Tech's kind of a little bit more of a question mark, and it's tough to bet against them or bet on a team like that in week one. But I think this is like Lenore Sellers. Show me why you're the hype you're getting right now. Obviously, you showed us last year what he can do and physically impose their will. I think South Carolina takes a step back this year. Not in this game though. I think they can, out physical and kind of handle Virginia Tech pretty easily, especially if you're playing that game. I think it's neutral site. It's going to be in Atlanta, but I do expect a pretty hefty Gamecock crowd there in week one on Sunday afternoon. And then lastly, yeah, we talked about it already. Utah at UCLA. Yeah, I'll take it at minus 5.5. We picked it at 6 on the show, but this is a friendly reminder to shop lines. Utah minus 5.5. Also bet responsibly too. Utah minus 5.5 for all the reasons we talked about it in that game. I think they're going to have a coming out party. And last year was a down year for them. I do not expect that to continue this year. Yeah, give me the Utes.
Yeah, I like both those plays. Not have to bet them. Utah, I almost went with you on Utah, but am I reading that right? Did that line open at 3? How did we not see that? I mean, it opened probably months ago, right? But how did I not see that? Uh, I'll roll with my last one here. Give me Toledo plus 9.5 against Kentucky. That's a sneaky upset alert too. It's not at the 10-point underdog to qualify as a dirty dog for us, but Toledo plus 9.5. I mean, they walloped Mississippi State last year. And by the way, are we sure that this Kentucky team is that much better than last year's Mississippi State team? Are we sure? I just want to throw that out there. I don't know that I'm too sure. Okay. I think Toledo is talented enough to speed up this Kentucky defense. And I'm not sure that Zach Calzada is the guy. Although I understand he was very good at Incarnate Word. And I know just because of the success of recent Incarnate Word quarterbacks, we like to think, oh, it's just like, it's easy, like whatever. Like, we saw last weekend that you can't just throw any quarterback in that UIW system and it just works out, right? So Calzada is an interesting quarterback. I don't think he will be particularly great. So I think Toledo possibly will have a quarterback edge in that game, which is crazy to think about. Probably not, but we'll just have to wait and see. But I like it. Yeah, plus 9.5.
Yeah, Toledo, they beat Mississippi State last year, and they only won 7 games. Right? They lost
Yeah,
4 games in the MAC. And now you had some injuries, in that Buffalo game. I get that. And Ohio was a buzzsaw you ran into, and the Akron game was overtime. Weird Tuesday night. I'm not gonna blame you for all
some
those
action.
games. Yeah, I mean you can't take too much stock into that, but you also Toledo did some nice things in the portal. They returned a couple pretty good football players. Chip Trayanum also comes from Kentucky, and a little revenge game for him. Maybe giving some details about what Kentucky likes to do and what they don't like to do. Yeah, this is I like that. I was hoping it was going to be at 10 so I could throw that on our dirty dog, but I like the fact that you're on them, and plus we love the Mac here, so why not?
Let's get right into the dirty dog. So, if you haven't been here before, all right, every week, and we've had like ridiculous success with this, by the way. Like last year, in the 14 weeks of the regular season, okay, we of course each picked 2 underdogs for 10 points or more each week. And you're thinking to yourself, my team's not going to lose, we're a 10-point favorite, you know. I'm Miami. I'm not going to lose to Syracuse, the last week of the season. It happens. It happened 12 times on this show that we picked 10-point underdogs to win outright. So can we find one in week 1? Last year, we did not. I think we were 0-4, but then the next week we came back and we were 2-4 in week 2 of last year. So I'm just saying it happens. All right. So again, the qualification got to be a team that's at least a 10-point underdog. All right. I'll go first. I'll go with a smelly, stinky one. Every year there is some non-Division One FBS team that beats a Division One FBS team, and you may be thinking to yourself, what team could it possibly be? So that means that this team must be terrible, right? Well, who's playing St. Francis, PA? Oh, who's playing? Give me Southeast Louisiana to walk into Louisiana Tech and give them the business. All right, Louisiana Tech, while they played a little bit better down the stretch of the season, they are not a good football team. I repeat, not a good football team. And how many Division One football players has Southeast Louisiana produced over the last several years? Lots, lots. And I also happen to think that their quarterback Tanner Murray, a little bit unknown because he hasn't played a ton of football. He was a Will Stein recruited quarterback to UTSA, transferred to a community college where he did pretty darn good for them, and then hasn't really seen a lot of action here at Southeast Louisiana. But Tanner Murray, I think, is an interesting look for you heading into this game. And yeah, I just don't think Louisiana Tech's very good. This is a spot that Southeast Louisiana could come in and potentially win this football game. So give me Southeast Louisiana, who are 13.5-point underdogs. And that money line, hold on, I got to give the money line too. We're going to get that at, I don't even think you can bet money lines on this game. Well, maybe some books.
They
Well,
know,
13 and a
man.
half point
Vegas
underdog.
knows.
Yeah, 13.5-point underdog. You're probably looking at what, like plus 380, plus 400, probably maybe plus 350. So yeah, we'll call it plus 350 is what we're gonna call it.
Wouldn't that be stinky, man? You've been kind of surgical on those, so I wouldn't put it past you. For all the reasons you talked about, that's awesome. You got that there. I'm gonna take it. Just stick in Louisiana. I'm gonna go fading the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. Right, I'm gonna go Rice in Scott Abel's game 1. They're 11.5-point dogs in this game. The money line is plus 350 right now. Right around, pretty typical for that line there. I know Louisiana's breaking a new quarterback, Walker Howard, very talented, all that fun stuff. But Scott Abel just intrigues me in week 1, what he can do potentially. And their starting quarterback, Chase Jenkins, fits exactly what Abel likes to do in his, not triple option attack, but a spread option or an option attack, kind of his form of that and what he does. And he did it. We went into it pretty extensively, and I think they could do some fun things and surprise some teams this year. Wouldn't be surprised if it is week 1 here, especially with no tape on Abel, what he's going to do with this roster. And Chase Jenkins, who was recruited as a quarterback to Rice originally, moved to wide receiver, after making a couple of appearances there, in his true freshman season, heads back to quarterback because Abel's back, and that fits his scheme super well. He ran like about an 11-second 100-meter dash, so he's got plenty of speed there. That would be a fun one. So yeah, Rice plus 11.5 or plus 350.
Yeah, you like interesting coaches with interesting offenses. Yeah, I don't hate that play at all. I looked at that. I just have this thing in my head that Walker Howard's pretty good, so
Yeah.
I try to stay away from that one. But I see exactly what you're looking at over there. Give me your Ohio Bobcats plus 510 against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Thursday night game, 5 o'clock Central. Okay. How many years, CD? What's the streak on MAC teams beating a Big Ten team?
It's a significant amount.
It's a significant number of years. Where is it going to be this year? I think Rutgers isn't like that bad, right? But Ohio for a MAC team is so good. They're still so loaded. and they get Brian Smith, who was the coach last year. We've talked about it so many times. The bowl game, they lose their coach to go to Charlotte. 0 opt-outs. 0. Not a single one. Players bought in. The athletic director for Ohio, she lit up talking about Brian Smith. She said it wasn't even, of course, it was a search because these players deserve the best, right? But ultimately, these players just kept coming up to her and were like, you have to keep Coach Smith, right? Brian Smith is going to be a great coach for Ohio this year and in the future. Give me Parker Navarro, quarterback of Ohio, to lead those Bobcats in a victory against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. They're a 15.5-point underdog, plus 510.
Dare I say you have a quarterback edge in that game if you're Ohio?
Whoa.
And that's just Ethan
Maybe.
Kellickman slander. He didn't deserve that. I think he might have a pretty solid year, but Parker Navarro's awesome.
I don't. You're not crazy, right? I think Ethan Kellickman, for how limited of an arm talent he is, I think he probably does actually have a better arm than Navarro. It's just like what Navarro can do with his legs and just being a winner. Just being a winner, man. He's so good like that. God, just like you're a classic college football quarterback. Like, if you love college football, you love players like Parker Navarro, right? Unless you're, like Kent State or some team in the MAC that's getting absolutely shredded by him. Or if you're Jacksonville State getting shredded by him in the bowl game in that first half. So, yeah, give me Ohio plus 510. Come on.
Yeah, the stat is MAC team beating a Big Ten team in 16 out of the last 18 seasons. That is
why not here?
Astronomical. Yeah, you got a couple other options too. I mean, Ball State over Purdue, Miami over Wisconsin. A Daquan Finn, by the way, starting for Miami. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Buffalo against Minnesota, Western Michigan and Michigan State. But I like the Ohio one here. If I was going to pick one of them, I would take him too. My dirty dog here, and I hate it to do it, but I think I'm going to take Coastal Carolina over Virginia. Coastal plus 12.5. They got some interesting guys in the portal. MJ Morris comes over, who obviously, had some controversy, at Maryland and at NC State and a lot of places, but he's a good, talented football player, right? And I hope Tim Beck can get the most out of him. There's still talent on that roster. You bring in a good amount of, power four, somewhat experienced guys or solid recruits that they've seen coming from the power four level. And then Virginia, first of all, I like Chandler Morris. I'll say that right now. I do. I think a lot of people do too. Brady Wilson, we talked about your guy there at center for him, Jamal Adreen, stuff like that. But I think there's a chance here. I'll be honest, I didn't love what I was looking at, on the board here, but that's how I'm going to be at with the Chanticleers. They've done it before. And I think they could do it again.
Yeah, that's not crazy. I think Virginia might be improved, but you are relying on some transfer portal kids, and they don't click week one. Like, weird stuff happens in week one. All right, like you're sitting here and you're looking at the slate. And you're like, okay, and you're like putting your 13-game parlay together, just taking money lines of some teams that are heavy favorites, and you are going to be severely disappointed when like 8 of your legs get busted. Like since we've been doing this, CD, I think there was only 1 week in the last like 2 years that we've done this where no underdogs of over 10 points won straight up. It's only 1 week where that hasn't happened. That's insane.
It's a really good exercise to do. I encourage you guys to do it too in comments or whatever. See what if you see some lines or some spots you see. It's a good way, I think, to test yourself. Look at some potential opportunities, holes in rosters, different dynamics. A lot of fun for us.
And it allows you to look at college football with a different lens because it really, like, you think there are some margins that can't be overcome, right? Like Ohio State versus Kent State. Like, that can't be overcome. And that is a sad part of college football. But Hawaii being a 17.5-point underdog against Arizona after Hawaii just beat Stanford what are we talking about here? Like, they could win that football game. We had like a 28-point underdog win last year. I think Liberty lost to a winless Kennesaw State team. That's nuts. That's nuts. That's college football, baby. Here we go. But thank you all, anyways, for tuning in to our week 1 preview. Boy, are we glad to be back. Business is booming. College football is back. And I can't wait to just plop on the couch, get my quad box going, maybe a brew or two, and just consume the greatest sport on this planet. CD, anything for us on the way out?
No, you said it. I appreciate you guys for sticking with us in this tough off season for us, but we're here, man. We are here, and gonna be a lot of fun. Encourage you to stick around for the rest of the season because it's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a great one, and glad to have you guys on board with us.
We'll see y'all in the next one.